What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome on in to the Brass Ring Media Podcast. It's Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. How is it going out there? I'm Zach Haydorn. I am your host of the show tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me. I certainly appreciate it. Normally, I've got Tyler Sage with me, my partner in crime. He is still gallivanting around in Aruba on vacation. How dare he? How dare he take a vacation? How dare he take a second to relax? We're on the road to WrestleMania, and he's off doing that? I'm kidding. I'm obviously kidding. Aruba sounds fantastic right now, actually. I'm in Chicago, as you guys all know, and right now in Chicago, we're fixing to get some snow, like some legitimate 4 to 8 inches of snow between tonight and tomorrow night. So I'm kind of jealous that old Tyler Sage is in Aruba right now, laying on a beach somewhere. Goodness gracious. But the good thing is we're here, I'm here, you're here, and we got a heck of a show planned. And so I thank you very much for tuning in. Here's the plan for the next, 45 minutes or an hour or whatnot. I want to talk yesterday's Monday Night Raw, of course, but the first thing I want to do is I want to see if we can answer a question right now. And that question is, should Jey Uso wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania based on all the facts that you have right now? Now, look, I understand that it's a bit of a fool's errand. I do, because we don't know all the pieces. We don't know all the matches. We don't know, anything. We don't know anything. So you're probably, if you're sitting there like, hey, why are we doing this? Well, because it's fun. It's fun. It's fun to discuss. It's fun to chat. It's fun to dig in and figure this stuff out. So that is the question we're going to be answering first. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk Raw. We're going to talk a little bit about the releases. I know that just popped up in the chat from Eddie. So Eddie, we will get to that for sure. And then we'll also just kind of dig into AEW tomorrow night. Obviously, AEW is usually the focus of our Thursday show, and it will be this week too. On the member side of things this week, we'll be talking a little bit of NXT, which will be fun. We don't give NXT too much time here on the regular show, just because there's so much to talk about. But given the fact that there's a pay-per-view over the weekend coming up, definitely want to get to that. So we'll talk about that on the member side of things. So that's kind of a rundown of the Brass Ring Media Podcast stuff for the week. If you missed it last night, Robert Vallejos has been hosting some really, really fun Raw post shows on a weekly basis, and also some post pay-per-view post shows as well. So if you've missed that, definitely go back and check it out. Last night's show was a blast. He kind of just walks through Raw and talks about it with you guys, and takes your comments, takes your questions, takes your topics, and runs a really cool ship. So I definitely encourage you guys to check that out. More plugs in a minute. Here is the question at hand: should Jey Uso wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania? That's the question that I posed to you on this year Tuesday night, and we've got some folks in the chat that want to get in on this conversation. First of all, hello to everybody in the chat. Thanks so much for joining the show. Thanks for participating. It is, man, is it fun to kind of hang with you guys during these shows. You don't have to watch this on YouTube. If you choose to, obviously that's great. That's where we run the show live. You can also pick it up as a podcast. So if you are watching now and you're like, hey, I like this, where can I get more of this? Well, you can download these shows as a podcast on the Brass Ring Media podcast feed. So it's just search Brass Ring Media wherever you get your podcast. You can download this show as well as all the other shows that air live from Brass Ring Media. So it's my two shows here, the Brass Ring Media podcast, We got Robert's shows, and then Ashley's show, the Kick-Ash podcast on Saturday mornings, holding it down, which is an absolute blast. So do that if you're not a YouTube person. Anyway, thank you to Mike, who's here. Mike says, hey, what's going on, Mike? Eddie is in the chat. What's going on, Eddie? Of course, we have our Brass Ring Media Gold member. Sean is in our live chat as well. Sean, it is always a blast. Thank you so much for your support. Sean was a special guest on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Well, geez, not a couple weeks ago, about a week and a half ago. And it was fantastic as always. So check out that episode. You can see we did a Royal Rumble preview episode, so you could listen to that back and see who got what right and who got what wrong. But yeah, a blast. So thanks, Sean, for being here. Sean says here in the live chat, Robert is awesome. Yeah, Robert's really good at what he does. I love his demeanor on the air. So if you're not listening to Nocturnal Knockout, whether it's post Raw, post pay-per-view, or something else, you should be. You really should be, because you're missing out. You're missing out if you aren't. Back to the question at hand. Should Jey Uso wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania? Sean, our gold member, says no. Straight up. Just straight up. Also later on says, sorry, Jay, and I do like him. Okay. There's one vote. Eddie, a little bit of a different perspective. Eddie says here, the only way Jey isn't the Saturday Night Main Event at Mania is if there's a Seth, Roman, and Punk main event. Oh, Eddie, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that. Great call, and definitely want to get there. Eddie also says here in the live chat, there isn't a women's match that should be one of the main events. Sean chimed in again here. I truly wonder how long this entrance will last. That Memphis pop was huge. Mike chiming in. Jay was probably right. The right choice to win the Rumble, but doesn't need to be the main event. So, and then we got Andrew, our other gold member. Man, we got both of our gold members here tonight. It is a pleasure. It is a good day when both gold members can join the show live. Andrew H. here says, yes, Jey should wrestle in the main event. The main event being the opening match to set the tone for the weekend. Okay. It's not really the main event in the truest sense, Andrew, but I definitely get what you're saying. Here's my thing. Okay. Based on what we've seen, and Kieran's in the live chat too, joining us from X. Kieran, appreciate you being here. Thanks so much. Love the comment there. And I'll try to get to that in a minute. I think Jey Uso right now should absolutely wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania based on what we know right now. When you look up and down what WWE may be planning for WrestleMania, whether that's Cody and Cena or Charlotte and Tiffany or Rhea and Bianca, right? Or even that triple threat match, between Roman and Seth and Punk. I think what's going on with Jey Uso right now is hotter than all of those things. I mean, I don't know how I can reasonably argue against that. I just think that you have a situation brewing that is like a little Daniel Bryan-esque. And because of that, the momentum of Jey really should be taken into account when you're planning out this card. Now on paper, it's weird to say out loud, right? It's weird and almost unreal to advocate for a Jey Uso main event, whether it's night one or night two, with a card that's also going to include John Cena on his retirement tour, Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and CM Punk, who's arguably, the hottest star in WWE right next to Jey Uso. It's crazy to think that, we're in a situation right now where we're having a conversation of like, should this Jey Uso Gunther thing be the main event? And the way that I think about this is just what else can happen? The triple threat, right? That's like, if you assume that Cody is going to get the main event of WrestleMania night 2 against John Cena, right? Which I think is reasonable at this point. Okay. If he's going to be in that spot, you have to assume that Roman and Seth and Punk will be wrestling on night 1. And that's a big match, but like, it has no stakes. I don't think that people are just salivating at the prospect of seeing that triple threat match without any stakes, right? Without any stakes on it. I mean, like it just, so I think Jey versus Gunther is definitely hotter than that right now. Now, granted, things can change, right? They may have them, and part of me really thinks that they do have other plans, especially for that trio, Seth, Punk, and Roman. Like, I just can't imagine they're going to be going into WrestleMania in a grudge match, triple threat match. I mean, yes, it's a big match. Yes, there's big names, but like, why? How do you make people care about that? I suppose that's a different question for a different day. My point in bringing that up, though, is I don't think that at this point there's any reasonable reason to think that that is going to overtake Jey Uso against Gunther in terms of momentum. Now, I'm catching a lot of flack. I'm catching a lot of flack in the live chat for comparing Jey Uso to Daniel Bryan. But look, guys, I know that they're not the same wrestler. It's not what I mean. I mean that they're like momentum of popularity, very similar. Really similar. I mean, Bryan had the yes chant. Jey Uso's got the yeet. It's a funny sentence. There's a sentence I never thought I'd say. They're very similar in terms of how, they generated their momentum to WrestleMania. Sean here says, Zach, don't compare Jey to Daniel Bryan. Bryan was still better overall. Jey is super over, though, right now. I mean, yes, that you're 100% right, Sean. Like, Bryan is definitely the better wrestler. But I think that they're both, comparatively over in the same type of way. The same type of way. They're not the same wrestler, of course. Daniel Bryan could wrestle circles around Jey Uso. But in terms of being over and in terms of having that like fan momentum that is kind of like feeling like it might be a tidal wave, I think it's very similar. Andrew agrees with me. Andrew says Jey Uso is organically over like Bryan was. Yes, that is my point. Maybe we should just have our gold members do the show because it's a great point. Yeah, it is. It's organic. It's organic and it's strong. If you ask me, if I was Gunther and Jey, and I was sitting backstage after last night thinking like, hey, we got something here. In the back of my mind, I'd be thinking to myself, we gotta keep going. We gotta take this thing all the way to the main event of WrestleMania. Like, that's on the horizon. If I'm that, like, if I was a competitor, just trying to flex my muscle in the biggest way possible. That's what I'd be thinking. That would be my goal. That would be my goal. So, and I don't think it's that far off. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a minute, but let me take care of a little bit of business here. Let's pay those bills. Thank you everybody for joining the show today. Really appreciate it. This is the Brass Ring Media Podcast. We are live with this show right on the One True Sport YouTube channel every single Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday nights, Thursday afternoons. Usually the Tuesday show is more of our WWE focused show. We get a little bit more AEW focused later in the week. Odds and ends stuff, including today on both shows. But it's great to have you. I'm Zach Hadorn, your host. If you are not subscribed to the One True Sport YouTube channel here, hit subscribe. We got all sorts of great content here. All the Brass Ring Media shows run live right here on the YouTube channel. We started it at the beginning of the year when we partnered up with One True Sport, but there's stuff on this channel with Arn Anderson. There's stuff on this channel with RVD and so many other pro wrestling legends. Hit subscribe if you haven't hit subscribe. Also, check Brass Ring Media out on YouTube as well. We'd love to have you a subscriber over there. Special content drops there as well, and you definitely want to check that out. Brass Ring Media also offers a special membership tier where we have member-only content that drops throughout the week. You can check out Brass Ring Media membership on Patreon. Patreon.com/Brass Ring Media is where you go. And what do you get? For only $4 a month, $4 a month, you get a member-only podcast once a week. You get all of our pay-per-view and PLE review shows, including NXT Vengeance Day over the weekend. You get that. You get access to our full Discord community, full access to our written newsletter, which goes out multiple times throughout the week with our written content from myself and the team. And then you get all sorts of odds and ends stuff along the way. So please check us out. Check it out over there. Brass Ring Media on Patreon, patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. As far as the show goes today, if you want to get in the mix on the live chat and make sure that your comment is heard, leave us a super chat. That helps us out big time. It's kind of the foundation in which Brass Ring Media is built. So please, if you're able and willing, any contribution amount helps. We'll make sure to get to all super chats today. Once again, I want to thank Sean and Andrew. They are our Brass Ring Media Gold members, so you'll see their live chats popping up a multitude of times throughout the show. If you're interested in gold membership, that's also up on Patreon, patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. All right, back to the question at hand here. Should Jey Uso wrestle in the main event of WrestleMania? I say yes. There is a mixture of opinions for sure. But here's the thing. I'm not naive to the notion that this Jey Uso run, I guess, or tidal wave, if you will, it can fade at any minute, right? Like it could. I mean, it reasonably could. It could get hotter at any minute. It could flatten out at any minute. You just don't know. You just don't know where it's going to go right now. You don't know how hot it's going to get. You don't know how long the wave of momentum is going to be able to last, right? We just don't. We're kind of in uncharted waters. Like it was clear, back around this time before WrestleMania 30, as much as WWE was trying to stunt the momentum of Daniel Bryan for no good reason, we all know that, it became clear that just wasn't going to happen, that was not going to work. And the more that they tried to stop it, the more that they tried, or the more that the fans pushed back and demanded that Daniel Bryan get that shot at WrestleMania. I think we're getting to that point with Jey, but we don't know yet because Jey, he's a new face, in this position. The thing is, because you don't know, when this can wear off, because you don't know like how far something like this can go. 8 weeks or 9 weeks, I guess, is a long. It's a long way away. That's a long time. That's a lot of shows. You know, I mean, that's 9 SmackDowns. That's 9 Raws. You know, there's a pay-per-view within that window. So they are going to need to work really hard. And I think they made the right call, you know, yesterday, just announcing the match. If you're going to go with it, go with it. Put your chips in the middle, right? You couldn't do that beatdown segment last night and then just have Jey not decide to go after Gunther. I think he would have looked pretty weak if he just would have still have been hemming and hawing after that. But here now, you got to get there. You got to get there. You got to maintain this momentum for you know, 8-9 weeks. I think that's going to be a tough task. I think you'll really see some nuances of Paul Levesque's booking. I would not be surprised if we see some kind of vicious attack angle, you know, where Jey gets taken out by Gunther, because after all, Gunther said, hey, Jey, if you pick me, it's going to be the worst decision of your life. I'm going to take you out, and, you know, it's going to be violent, and I'm going to make your life a living hell. It'd be cool to pay that off with Gunther taking Jey out. That does two things if you book that. Number one, it gives you the freedom to leave Jey off the show. And that's big, especially because, like I said, there's a lot of time. But it also allows for Gunther as a heel to kind of like maintain some of his credibility. He said he was going to do that to Jey. Now he has. That's good. But the biggest thing is it keeps Jey off TV. Maybe we see Gunther. Does he do something to Jimmy? Is that something that, you know, do we go that route? Don't know yet. Something though. But you got to think of all the different levers that they have to pull in order to keep this ride on the track. And they got a tough task. They got a tough task on their hands. Sean says here, I think it will burn out. I just want Jey to get me invested in the match after he just lost. His promos need to improve. The first few weeks have worked well. Yeah, Sean, I think that's a reasonable opinion to have, honestly. Like, especially if you weren't sure about this going in, or you weren't, if you weren't like high on this. I think, Sean, what you have here, and I'll read it again. I think it will burn out. I just want Jey to get me invested in the match after he just lost. His promos need to improve. The first few weeks have worked well. Again, that's reasonable. They have worked well. I mean, it's that part, I think, Sean, you'd agree, is pretty indisputable, right? Like, I mean, there's nobody in pro wrestling that's getting the reactions that Jey Uso is getting right now. And the Rumble win, I think, helped nudge those along. But I think you're right. I think they still have to work hard to, as I just mentioned, they still have to work hard to make sure that fans are invested. And he does need to improve his promo. Like, if I'm Jey Uso right now, not only am I talking to Gunther about being and working towards being in the main event of WrestleMania, I'm also already thinking about and practicing my go home babyface promo on the week before WrestleMania. Like, I am practicing that. That needs to be a home run from him. And, you know, there you go. Andrew says here, Jey wins, short reign, and then it's back to the ring general. Yeah, I'm gonna unless and Andrew says here, unless he, being Gunther, pivots to Cody. Yeah, like, I don't know that we're going to get a long run out of Jey, right? Because it might fizzle, it might just burn out. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go with it. And it doesn't mean you can't get a really cool WrestleMania moment out of Jey winning the title. It doesn't mean you can't. Doesn't mean you can't get that. Doesn't mean you can't have that. So, and then I wonder too, like, if Jey's champion, there's some cool opponents that they have on that they could put on deck, right? I mean, you could do. I mean, obviously Gunther's you're gonna want to do a rematch there, I'm sure. John Cena is gonna potentially want to work. Seth and Jey and Punk and Jey. Roman is on Raw. Do they run that back? Like, there's just a lot of cool matches you could do. Then you get down a level, Braun Breaker. That could be something that they run. There's a lot of potential opportunities. If Jey's there. Sean pushes back on that booking and says that's just pointless. Gunther still loses to Jey. Yes, he gets it back, but why does he have to lose to Jey? Gunther is a star and needs to be treated like one. Yeah, I mean, regardless of what happens here, Gunther still a star. He's a heel, so he's going to lose. He's going to lose these big matches, but in losing, Gunther may actually elevate himself if he does then go on to chase, Cody's championship, or I guess Cena. What if Gunther is the one that beats Cena in the end for the title? That's big, So just because he loses this match, Sean, I don't think that we're in a position where it's devastating for him if he doesn't win. Man, you guys are just killing it in the live chat. Once again, live chat's open, folks. If you're on Twitter or X checking out the show, jump on into the conversation. We'd love to have you. If you're on YouTube listening and watching the show, we'd love to have you as well. So definitely check it out and drop in your comments. Okay. Last thing about WrestleMania, we talked about the women's division, or there's some chatter in the chat here about the women's division. It's amazing to me that they seemingly don't have something for Rhea Ripley right now. And that is that's befuddling to me. She is one of your biggest success stories of 2024. Before that, but 2024 was definitely her biggest year in the company, and she just wins the title on your big Netflix show. 6 million people or whatever watched it. She's out there with the Undertaker, right? And she doesn't seem to have anything lined up for WrestleMania. We found out yesterday Rhea's going to defend her title against Io Sky in a couple weeks. That's a cool match. I mean, I'm literally really looking forward to that. But I don't know that Io Sky against Rhea Ripley is a WrestleMania match. Andrew H says Io Sky is something. Yeah, I mean, that's a good match. But I don't know. I don't know that doesn't. It's babyface. You're already going to have that on the show with Cena and Cody. You're going to have a little bit of that going on with Seth, Roman, and Punk. Not another one. Rhea's got to have, a heel to work with. And it's shocking to me that she's not a priority in terms of hey, what do we got for Rhea Ripley? Like Vince used to say about Steve Austin. What do we got for Austin? I think that question needs to be prominent if you're Paul Levesque. We got for Rhea. And it doesn't seem like they have anything right now. Might they do Bianca Belair? Yeah. She's in the Elimination Chamber, so she could win that, and that's a big match. But Bianca Belair has been just in the tag division for the better part of a year. Over a year now. Or no, coming up on a year. So that's a good match, but I'd rather see that at WrestleMania 42, after Bianca gets back into the swing of things as a singles competitor. And also, you have a problem with that. As much as I like that match, you have the same issue with Io Sky. It's babyface. So unless Bianca turns heel, because you're not turning Rhea Ripley heel, unless Bianca Belair turns heel, you're just, you don't want that. You don't want too many of those on your show. It's surprising that they don't have it. Now, I will say that Charlotte has not officially declared that Tiffany Stratton is going to definitely be her opponent at WrestleMania. So I guess Charlotte could still pick Rhea, and I think they've got they have a reasonable story to tell there, right? They have a logical story to tell there. It makes sense. Like, I think that's totally something they could pull off if they want to go down that road. At the same time, I just think that I just think that the Tiffany Stratton push really needs this Charlotte match. She needs a big star to work with at WrestleMania, and to me that makes more sense than Charlotte Rhea at this point in time. All right, let's pivot. Let's keep it in WWE camp, but let's talk about some of these releases that came about over the weekend. Friday night, they announced a handful of departures from the company, and it's a pretty vast list. Sonya Deville, Blair Davenport, Authors of Pain, Paul Ellering, and Cedric Alexander all released from the company. It's always bad news. It's always bad news when this kind of thing happens. And you never cheer for something like this, obviously. But because it's understandable. It's like a sports team, right? You don't keep everybody on you don't keep everybody on the roster if you're a baseball team or a football team forever into perpetuity. You just don't. Sometimes tough decisions are made. Sometimes you got to make choices. And in this case, as unfortunate as it is to see, I just don't think that any of these acts are all that surprising of a move, and I think all these acts, except for Paul Ellering, could get some meaningful work elsewhere. I like Sonya Deville, for example. That's one where that's a talent that I'm very interested in seeing, like what happens with her. Where does she decide to go? Does she just pack it in, and be done? Or does she go out there and does she try to work the independents? I could see her like doing one of those blood sport shows or one of the, a GCW show or something to that effect. Like, I could totally see her doing that. Same with Blair Davenport, actually. So that'd be cool. And then you learn, you grow, you try to get better, and then you come back. If maybe that's possible, maybe that's not. But I kind of like look, again, you never want to advocate for anybody to get fired, but never. But in some cases, it really can help a talent. Derek says this in the chat just now. If someone is not being used in a meaningful way, I think it does them a service to let them go, improve, and find a new path. The path might be back to WWE. Yeah, it might be. I think it's a great point. Like, I think Tony Khan runs into this issue sometimes, in that his roster is so bloated that there's talent on there that are just kind of like, yeah, they're getting paid. And, if that's what the goal is and that's that, then great, good for you. You're in the right place. But I know that there's talent out there that want to get used, that want to be wrestling, that want to be featured. And if they just kind of waste away on your roster, like what is that doing for you as a company? What is that doing for them as a star? Like, it doesn't make sense. And so part of this is not it. Yes, it's a cost-cutting measure for WWE for sure. It'd be silly to think that it wasn't, but it's also like a spot thing. There's not spots for everybody. And, I think that sometimes companies have to make tough choices, and just like a sports team does. And I think this is that. But seeing these reports, as tough as it is, none of these releases or, talents not re-signing, none of them stood out as like, whoa, that's a big mistake. I think they're all pretty much right on the money. Again, and I like, you guys know me, like I'm not trying to be a jerk with that. It's just, as LA Knight would say, that's just a fact of life. Right. And, again, I'm really looking for, like, if Sonya Deville is on a Bloodsport show, I will purchase that show. Like, I'll buy that show. Same thing with the GCW. And I don't buy all the GCW shows or the Bloodsport shows for that matter. But I'd be really curious to see what she's like outside of a WWE ring. She's been just such a WWE product for forever. That's why it's fun, like, to see Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth out there, on the independents. He's been just a WWE guy through and through. And so it's fun. It's fun to see him now outside of that system doing some cool stuff. Even though he's kind of back in now because of the TNA partnership with NXT and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I just think that it happens. As far as the AEW releases, boy, I'll tell you, that is a lot more egregious as far as the talent that they are letting go. Ricky Starks is not somebody that I'd be letting go. Like, I don't know what happened there. Obviously, we know both sides were disgruntled. We know the reporting on it. We know, like, fundamentally, like, we know what happened from a story perspective. But you can't let that guy go. He's so talented. And the chat here is talking about, like, Ricky Starks in NXT or WWE or post WrestleMania appearance. Like, I mean, Ricky Starks has become a bigger star the moment he leaves AEW. Even if he does nothing, he's a bigger star. Just because of Tony Khan not being able to figure it out with them. You can't let those guys go. He's a young talent. He is not defined down. He can be a star for you. And I think Ricky Starks is going to go to WWE. He is going to go to NXT. That would be my guess. And he is going to kill it. I really believe that. Malachi Black, a little bit of a different story. Like, Malachi Black, based on the reporting that we have, didn't really want to play ball in AEW. He wanted to do his thing, and he wanted to do his thing. And that's it. And, you can't work with a guy like that. And that's not going to fly in WWE. I mean, it just won't. And so, yeah, I think the upside is way bigger for Ricky Starks in WWE than I do Aleister Black, Malachi Black at this point in time. Sean says here in the live chat, Sean says, Tony Khan dropped the ball so much. Yeah, on the Ricky Starks thing, for sure, man. That's a talent that you just don't let go. You just don't like. Look, you signed Daniel Garcia. I mean, come on. Give Ricky Starks the Daniel Garcia push, and maybe it's not so bad. So yeah, I'm not sure what's happening here. Yeah, obviously, as Eddie points out in the live chat, Aleister Black, his wife Zelina Vega, is with WWE. I'm sure that's a factor. I'm sure that's a factor and an important one. So there you go. I mean, that's fine. There you go. But you just don't. You don't just stop doing jobs. And Miro, I don't know. I don't. Sometimes I don't get the sense that Miro wants to be a pro wrestler. Like, I just don't know that's the case. I mean, he had a good push in AEW. It just vanished into thin air. It's not like it like wore out his welcome or anything like that. It just kind of just kind of disappeared. But I don't know how much he wants to actually do this. And WWE right now doesn't need guys like that. They don't need Miro. They don't need anybody really. They don't, but they definitely don't need somebody like Miro. So if I were WWE, I would not be jumping up and down to sign that guy yet. I would be waiting to see just how much does he have left in him? What does he want to do? Is he out working the independents? Like, does he actually want to do this? I don't know that he does. That's my perception. I'm not breaking news there. That's my perception. That's me reading the tea leaves on that. Sean says here, he was way better in WWE. His booking in AEW was weird. Yeah, weird and like non-existent. Like he was there some weeks and not there months and months and months and months and months at a time. Very bizarre. All right. E, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining the show. E says, just got here. I will rewind later. Zach, how you been doing the morning show? Haven't been on the morning show in a minute. Yeah, the morning show, we're figuring that out. I've been kind of like MIA for a bit this week. Just, life happens. We still maintained most of the shows, which is great, and that's the goal, to provide you guys with what we say we're going to provide you with, and we do that on a week-to-week basis, almost 100% of the time. Last week was a crazy week. We're back on like a normal schedule this week, which is nice. Take a breath, and I just get to hang out with you guys more, which is fun anyway. Unless I like snowed in tomorrow or something. Thanks, E. More news on the morning show here in a little bit. Let's see here. Let me just I don't want to miss anybody's really good good chats. E also says, yeah, Ash and Robert are really cool. Thank you, E. Yeah, they are great to have on the Brass Ring Media team. If you're not listening to their shows, you should be. Seriously, like, I think they're so good that you may want to like almost like stop this show right now and tune in so that you can check them out. Like, they're that good. So don't miss it. Subscribe to the channel here so you don't miss them. Subscribe to Brass Ring Media podcast feed. Wherever you get your podcasts, you get those shows right there so you don't miss it. And it's worth it. Sean says here, Ashley is the best. Seriously. Sorry, Zach. LOL. Yeah, she's the best. What can I say? She's the best. Period. Check her out. Kick Ash Podcast, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern, right here on the One True Sport YouTube channel, brought to you by Brass Ring Media. All right, let's talk Raw. I want to talk last night's episode of Raw. I thought Raw last night had some really good matches on it. I mean, I thought the main event, and I wrote this in my Raw column that's in the Brass Ring Media newsletter that you can check out. I think that's Logan Paul's best match to date. Really without question. I mean, like, when you think about some of the bigger matches that he had, including against Ray, but like they all kind of had like some gimmicky things. He's filming himself jumping off the ring post. You know, he's putting the mascot of his drink through a table. You know, what else? Like, you know, he's wrestling Roman Reigns, which was weird. He just was kind of put in different slots where he had to be protected as a wrestler, you know, like, because he's not a pro. I mean, he is a pro, but he's not like seasoned as these other guys. So the matches were good. There's no question about it. But to me, like, they felt like overly rehearsed, practiced, as they should be, Last night to me was the first time you saw Logan Paul go out there and like have a pro wrestling match. You know, like, he wasn't relying on any kind of big spot. There really wasn't any. There were big spots, but there weren't like gimmick spots, right? There weren't like stunt spots or stunt bumps. It was just a straight up pro wrestling match. And I thought that was really fun to watch. And they didn't hit everything perfect. And that's okay. Like, sometimes that happens and you call it on the run. And I thought Logan Paul rolled with those punches. I thought he was able to pivot. He was able to kind of collect himself and still go to the body language that's going to make people react. So, you know, that is his best performance by far in WWE. Obviously, Ray gets a lot of credit for that, of course, because, you know, he's a good dance partner, and it's Ray. Like, you know, you have really bad matches with Rey Mysterio. There's another issue there, but boy, yeah, Logan was impressive last night, and it hurts me to say that because, you know, on a personal level, not a personal level, but a non-professional wrestling level, I don't have much respect for him and what he does, but there's no denying that he picks up this wrestling thing pretty well. Sean says here, Logan and Ray was really good. Logan is taken to this wrestling thing. Yes, absolutely. He is. He's a natural in a lot of ways. He's a really good pro wrestler. He's not good at other stuff in his life, but he's good at that. The CM Punk Logan Paul interaction I thought was interesting. I hope it's not telling. We have a comment in here in the live chat from Eddie that says, I'd love to have Logan Paul eliminate CM Punk in the chamber. I think if that happens, Eddie, you got to be ready for a CM Punk Logan Paul WrestleMania match. And I don't know. I mean, on one hand, you face Logan Paul, right? And he's got a lot of eyes on him. You know, that match is going to be a relatively big deal, you know, at WrestleMania. But it's really not. It's kind of like beneath Punk at this point, you know? Like, I could see John Cena having that match before Punk, right? Like, yeah. Is it better than the triple threat match? It depends. Because we don't know how WWE is getting to that triple threat match or what it means. Andrew H says here, I thought this could be a possibility when he eliminated Punk from the Royal Rumble. Yeah. And you start connecting those dots, and yeah, it's easy to kind of convince yourself, hey, like, wait a minute here, like, maybe we're looking at Punk versus Logan Paul. I just think I would be surprised at that. I don't know how many WrestleManias CM Punk has left in him, you know? And like, if CM Punk wrestles Logan Paul on this show, it's like CM Punk truly hasn't moved anywhere in the hierarchy of what matters most in WWE from a roster perspective. It's still tippy top, and then CM Punk. I don't know that he'd go for that, right? I don't think he's like backstage demanding main events. But Andrew makes a good point here. Andrew says in our chat, and beneath Punk, please let Roman and Seth do their thing without Punk. Also, as a global business, Paul has 23 million YouTube followers. No, he does that, and that's why I say, like, it's not. It just, I don't see CM Punk as a guy who would be interested in or could really pull off like a celebrity match, which is what that is. That put Cena in that match. I think it works much better. Seth's been in that match and it worked very well. Roman has been in that match and it was fine. I don't know. I just don't know about Punk. Like, I mean, you do have the pieces, so I'm willing to see this play out. And I don't think that their interaction yesterday in the ring was an accident. I truly don't. But yeah, I am not fully on board yet. Though you make a good point, Andrew. You certainly do. You certainly do. Sean says in our live chat, they do not need to face each other. Yeah, that's kind of the boat I'm in. That's kind of where I'm at this point in time. Okay. The other thing I liked about Raw, that women's tag team match. Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez against Io Sky and Dakota Kai. That thing, there were moments in that match where I'm like, oh my God, they're really going to hurt each other. Like they're fighting out there. Liv busted open. It looked like Io Sky had a broken nose on like 2 or 3 different occasions in that match. I thought that was a really good match. They got time. They got time to do their thing. Like that's always good to see. That's always good to see. And I really enjoyed that. I enjoyed that match. For as much as I enjoyed that match, I disliked the men's tag team match. What are we doing here? Sean in the chat. The tag team title finish was abysmal. Yeah, that's the best word for it. Abysmal. I mean, like, don't do the match. If you're gonna do a finish like that, just don't do the match. Or do a DQ finish that's just better than that one. I get it. You don't want to pay off everything because maybe you want to do this at maybe you want to do it at Elimination Chamber, a rematch, or maybe you want to have tag teams line up so you can do a multi-team match at WrestleMania. Like, there's lots of different things you could a lot of different avenues you can go down, but you don't want to condition fans to think that these finishes won't matter. And they come close to like crossing that line. They walk it well because, you get clean finishes last week with Punk and Sammy. You got a clean finish this week with Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio. But then same thing with Lyra Valkyria and Bayley. So 3 of the 4 matches had clean finishes, but this one was just so unimaginative, and just so blah. And I think that's what stings worse. That's what stings worse than anything. Yeah. Let's see. Andrew says, I really like the Creed brothers. I do too. I think they're a good tag team. I think they're a good tag team. And I think if WWE wants to put some focus on them or focus on the tag division, they've got the pieces. They've got the pieces to do it. They just got to go there. They just got to go there and do it. Los Bags is not in on Jey Uso. He's answering the question here. He or she is answering the question here. It says, simple answer, no. Jey Uso is garbage. Ouch, Los Bags. Thanks for joining the show. We're glad you're here. Hopefully you come on back because we are about to wrap things up. We do have a big AW show on Saturday night. So we'll do a preview of that show on Thursday right here on the Brashstream Media podcast. We'll also obviously talk AEW Dynamite and get the lowdown from that show. But if you're waiting for a Grand Slam Australia preview show, it is coming. And we'll be here Thursday to preview that and talk all things talk all things AEW. Guys, thank you for being here. Tremendous show this hour. Man, it flew by. Andrew says big. I mean, I think you mean big bust. Well, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't call it a bust. You know, I mean, like it's like Saturday Night's main event level, kind of. That's what I'd say, Andrew. Thank you. Sean says, fun show, Zach, as always. Thank you, Sean. You guys make it fun. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you, Eddie and Mike and Andrew and Sean and Los Bags and Kieran and everybody else that joined in here throughout. Appreciate you. Make sure you're checking out Brass Ring Media on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Check it out. Subscribe so you know when we drop new content. Also, head over to Substack. That's where our written newsletter lives, and you can get that for free. And you should want to check out what we offer Brass Ring Media members. $4 a month gets you access to everything that we do at Brass Ring Media. Your member-only show once a week, pay-per-view and PLE review shows, all of our written work for free, countless other things, including access to our Discord community where Sean and Andrew and others hang out throughout the week and talk wrestling. And it's fun. And I think if you like this show and you like this environment, you really like what we do there. And we'd love to have you. We'd love to have you try us out and see what we're all about. Patreon.com/Brass Ring Media. Of course, all of our Brass Ring Media shows now are here live on the One True Sport YouTube channel, and then they simulcast on the Brass Ring Media podcast feed. So you can get us in so many different places. And I hope that you do. How about that Super Bowl beatdown? I kind of wanted the Chiefs to win. I like seeing history. I like seeing the greats be great. And so I kind of was like, I kind of want to see Mahomes do it. Three-peat, that's pretty cool. Didn't happen. Guys, I won the craziest bet. The biggest garbage time bet that there is. I had DeAndre Hopkins to score a touchdown, and he scored one at the very end in a meaningless. Oh man, it saved me. It absolutely saved me. If you're an Eagles fan out there, congratulations! Heck of a year, heck of a game. Gonna be tough to beat. Mike says here, survive the 5 inches of snow tomorrow, Zach. I know, man. It's coming. The only good thing about 5 inches of snow is you can take the dog out. She loves the snow, and the kids can go sledding. It's been a while since we've been able to do that. So that will be fun. But other than that, shoveling won't need to work out tomorrow. That's for sure. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. Check us out on Patreon. We'd love to have you. Thank you. We'll be back Thursday afternoon right here on the Brass Ring Media podcast on One True Sport. I'm Zach Haydorn. We'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.